Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons.
All right, welcome to Strange Eons Radio. That is Eric over there.
Hello.
That is Vanessa over there.
Hello.
And I am Kelly, and we are recording live at Crypticon 2025, which means you guys have to make some noise. Very nice.
Excellent.
Very nice. I know one person has been here to one of our live shows before. Has anybody else done this? Wow. Hey, thanks for coming back. Didn't mean to sound so surprised.
Was that as bad as I remember? I gotta go find out.
You guys even remember last year? The whole concert happening behind us.
That's
It was
right.
great. Everything.
Live music, all sorts
yeah.
of stuff going on.
Absolutely.
In honor of the Hellraiser mini reunion going on this year, we've decided that today's episode is going to be about the Hellraiser franchise and specifically the first three Hellraiser films.
Yes, because who wants to go too far beyond that? Okay, yeah, I've watched them all, so I can't talk.
Yeah, I think we've all watched them all, and that's why we chose the first three.
Yep.
I will start this off if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
we want to do some Doug Bradley?
oh, right. Vanessa, were you going to tell us a little bit about Doug Bradley?
No.
Okay, then.
Doug's a neat guy. He's got a great voice, and whenever he's not playing Pinhead, it really blows. I know only once, guaranteed.
He looked like, that guy who looked like a little baby child. Yeah. No.
Let's hope he's not listening.
He's not.
Let's play the odds.
That
here.
actor? No. Is not.
Okay, dive in.
Then I will dive in. So, back in the 1980s, when horror novels were the thing, a young Liverpudlian playwright shook up the genre with his short story collections, The Books of Blood. Clive Barker weaved tales of gore, sex, and sadomasochism, and they sold like hotcakes. When one of the stories, Rawhead Rex, and another original screenplay that he wrote, Underworld, not that Underworld, were turned into pretty lousy films, I think we can all agree, Barker decided that he would try directing himself. The problem was that he wanted to put something out there that he knew could be made on the cheap to get studio money. And so with this in mind, he linked up with first-time producer Christopher Figg, and he set about crafting a story that he could hopefully get $1 million for. To ensure the story worked, he wrote it as a novella first, which also completed a prior commitment he had to American publishers Dark Harvest for a 30,000-word novella to appear in their Night Visions 3 anthology. And so into the world came The Hellbound Heart. The Hellbound Heart. Has anybody read the novella that this is based on? Okay. So The Hellbound Heart starts with Rory and Julia moving into Rory's deceased grandmother's house. He desperately wants to save their marriage, but doesn't realize she wants his missing brother Frank, with whom she had an affair shortly before marrying Rory. And neither of them know that Frank died in that house the previous year after solving LeMarchand's puzzle box and opening a gate to hell. So what we've got here in the novella is Rory, a nice guy. He's married to Julia, who's a bit cold towards him. And also, he doesn't know that his best friend somehow, Kirsty, has a crush on him. Julia herself is actually more tortured in the books than the people who opened the puzzle box. Since her affair with Frank, she sees how unfulfilling her life has become. And technically in the book, if you remember, it is Julia who is the protagonist, which gives the book a much darker tone.
Yeah.
Frank, Rory's older brother, lives for self-gratification. This guy loves pleasure. And then Kirsty has secretly loved her best friend for years. So despite knowing that Julia is bad news, she tries to help her best friend save his marriage. Kirsty, I suppose, is the closest the book has to a heroine, with Frank being the antagonist, and well more the antagonist than the Cenobites. Barker describes his short story as romance rather than horror, and that the Hellbound Heart of the title belongs to Julia. We're all aware of the Cenobites. this is the big part of the story that we all love, know and love. How much they change over the course of the franchise, but they have already changed a lot just from novella to the first film. In the novella, their summoning has a very overt religious connotation. They require an offering of a jug of urine and a plate of doves' heads. And when they show up, Frank is even given the option to back out twice. And when he does not do that, then that results in all of his senses being heightened, preparing him for what follows. So I reread this book not too long ago because I am currently working on a novel that I thought I wanted to sound like the Hellbound Heart. When was the last time you guys read this?
Oh, jeez. 90s?
Yeah.
I have not read this book.
It is not his typical writing. It's very dreamy. It's almost poetic.
Huh.
A lot of the conversations are described in paragraphs as a conversation these two people had about this instead of the actual lines of dialogue of the conversation. And I realized, I can't even pretend to write like this. It was so strange.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting about it is that Barker hints of these other charts that can lead you to the Cenobites. There is a coded theological work locked away in the Vatican and an origami sculpture once owned by the Marquis de Sade. And then the puzzle box, which personally I would have loved to have seen examined in the sequels. I will say I think the franchise has leaned too heavily on Pinhead and the box itself. So if they had kind of widened it, we might have gotten some more interesting films. Anyway, this novella, just a dry run to get the movie going. I will talk about Hellraiser the movie.
Excellent.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All right.
I was bored. I'd come to the limit. There was nothing else I wanted. A box.
Not just any box. It opens doors. Doors to the pleasures of heaven or hell.
I'll do anything you want. Anything.
It gave me an experience beyond the limits. Give me that box! Give me the box! We have such sights to show you.
Hellraiser, There Are No Limits. A film by Clive Barker.
New World, based on this story he has written that hasn't even been published, gives him $900,000 to make the movie.
So close.
Almost.
He's a first-time director. He's made a couple of short films. They just
All right, it's all adding up already.
Yeah,
Have you
Okay.
seen the short films too?
yeah,
They're crazy.
they are wild.
Whoa.
So he wrote the screenplay, and after a title change to Hellraiser, which I will get to at the end, filming begins in London in September of '86. The movie version of Julia is a more sympathetic character. We're actually kind of on her side on the first death.
Hmm.
She's repulsed and horrified by what's going on, but she kind of quickly gets caught up in all of it. And the thing that I love about the movie is she gets more beautiful every time she kills somebody. So you see her also filling out as a human. Rory is now called Larry, changed from British to American to help U.S. sales. And Kirsty is also American now because her character has been changed from a best friend who's in love with him to Larry's daughter from a previous marriage. The change is so smart. It works so much better.
Yeah.
And it allows movie Kirsty to be more of a proactive heroine and introduces kind of a fairy tale element, if you think about it, with the innocent daughter, the gullible father, and the wicked stepmother.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear the tone, turn the page. The original franchise plans were to focus on Julia. But Claire Higgins, who plays Julia, left after Hellbound Hellraiser 2. Not a fan of horror movies and didn't like it when the first movie came out. She was like, oh no, this is way scarier than I thought it was going to be.
Did she
That
read
doesn't
the
matter.
script?
Another character who barely features was about to become its figurehead, Pinhead. Elegant, eloquent, terrifying. And if you remember in the first movie, listed in the credits as
Lead Cenobite.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
not Pinhead.
No.
Unfortunately, the studio didn't like the way he was written in the script. And so they were just like, wait, this is what's happening. Nightmare on Elm Street, Lost Boys, Evil Dead movies. They wanted some kind of comedy mixed in with their horror. So they sent production executive Tony Randall to fix, honestly, what was not broken, including Pinhead. They wanted him to be either completely silent,
Oh my god.
like Michael
Oh my
Myers,
god.
Jesus.
or Jason,
Ugh.
or wife
Barker
backing.
was like, absolutely
Like
not.
Freddy
And
Krueger.
somehow he gets
Barker
Randall,
was like, absolutely not. And somehow he gets,
doing two. You're doing two.
I'm
Randall,
doing too.
you're doing too. Tony Randall. He gets
Mhm.
Tony Randall to side with him. And that's super important because Tony Randall ends up
Directing.
directing Hellraiser
Mhm.
2.
Yeah.
If you've watched the movie recently and read the novella recently, you're going to see that the movie improves on the story in every way, but especially in Kiersey. In an extended finale that is so much better than the book, it's almost shocking it wasn't in the book. She defeats the Cenobites by reversing the moves of the box, which is like, oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
And then she closes the gate to hell, and then somehow the box is returned to the person who originally sells it, and we just get this really lovely bookend and an opening for sequels that is not in the original novella.
With, little sketchy effects, but a cool ending nonetheless.
That's a note on that.
Oh my god.
Ooh. The book opens in September 1987. Who saw this in the theater when it opened?
Damn right.
Yeah.
I was young.
Oh, you were very young. Yeah.
Alive?
I was alive. I was alive.
I saw it in the theater, and I remember loving it, and it was too dark. Too dark, the film print.
Oh, the press,
So I couldn't really see what was going on. It grosses anywhere from $14.5 million to $20 million, depending on various reports. It's the most successful foreign film in many territories, and remember, $900,000 budget, $14.5 million. Not too shabby. The sequel is already greenlit by New World based on what they have seen. So before it even does any kind of box office, they're like, yeah, this is cool. We're going to put it out. For me, I think that the book works better with the world it creates, especially with the other modes of summoning the Cenobites. The Vatican Code is super interesting to me, and I really would have loved that because Barker describes the Cenobites as kind of like the popes of hell.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was just like, I really want to see where this might have gone. But the film clearly benefits from the book kind of road testing the premise. And it allowed Barker to smooth over the wrinkles. So Frank in the book is not given the option to back out by the Cenobites. But Christie in the book is not given the benefit either. They just kind of let her go for some reason. And if you read it, and it's a short novella, you're confused. It makes no sense. So the way that he figures out this ending is it's a much better payoff. It makes more sense. She actually gets to fight for her life, freedom, and everything, and it's just way more satisfying. I have some trivia on this movie, you guys, and
Excellent.
you're going to be shocked and surprised unless you also have Wikipedia. So we know the Cenobites by their names that were given to them over the years. They were just called lead Cenobite, stuff like that, female Cenobite. So, but you'll all know that the Chatterer, the guy with the teeth, and Butterball Cenobites, they actually had dialogue in the original script. Once their makeup was applied, it was impossible for them to say their dialogue. And so their lines were given to the lead Cenobite and the female Cenobite, which is why suddenly Pinhead becomes such an important figure in this. Those lines were all supposed to be spread out throughout all of them. Clive Barker has explained that, Eric. Due to a very limited budget, there was no money left to have the special effects done professionally after the primary filming.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, Barker and a Greek guy animated the finale scenes by hand over a single weekend. The yellow electricity that flows over the Cenobites' bodies as they are sent back to hell. Barker said that he thinks the FX turned out really well, considering the amount of alcohol the two of them were drinking.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Wow.
Clive shows this movie to his mom before anybody else. He says she cried tears of joy upon seeing her son's name in the opening credits, and he leans over and says, "This will be the happiest you'll be for the next 2 hours."
Oh my gosh.
The film was originally titled The Hellbound Heart. The studio decided the title sounded too much like a romance and asked Clive to change it. He offered Sadomasochists from Beyond the Grave, which was immediately rejected. He opened the floor to the production team to offer up their own suggestions, prompting a 60-year-old female crew member to suggest what a woman will do for a good fuck.
Wow.
The Hellraiser title comes from Christopher Figg. Eric, did you know, because I know you are a Christopher Young fan,
Yes.
did you know that industrial band Coil originally did the soundtrack?
I didn't.
There's a full soundtrack for this film by Coil. The studio ultimately decided to have the film rescored by a house musician that would not have to be paid royalties. Fucking Hollywood, man.
Yeah.
And the house musician was Christopher Young, and his score is amazing.
And he went on to do all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
His career.
The score that Coil recorded, a total of 9 tracks, can be found on their compilation CD Unnatural History 2, Smiling in the Face of Perversity, and on another album, the unreleased themes for Hellraiser, which I guess are apparently both quite rare. Very hard to find. So,
Guess I won't worry about it then.
yeah. But it does sound like something you want to track down, right?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, somebody has it.
Oh, all right.
Nice. Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead, he revealed that he and Clive decided early on that Pinhead was formerly human. Quote, a line from one of Clive's plays swam into my mind. I am in mourning for my humanity. At this point, there was no backstory for the character, but I discussed this with Clive, and we had agreed that he had once been human. But whether this was yesterday, last week, last year, 10, 100, 1,000 years ago, I didn't know. A perpetual, unconscious grieving for the man he had once been, for a life and a face he couldn't even remember, and a frozen grief. I feel now that Pinhead existed in an emotional limbo where neither pain nor pleasure could touch him. A pretty good definition of hell for me.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
This way you hire these kind of actors, right? They come into this with all this amazing backstory. And then finally, according to the crew, the backbone of special effects was, in fact, lube and condoms.
Well, you know,
Given the nature of the film,
yeah.
fitting. The crew actively sought out condoms because they were made out of latex. Lube made things look wet and stay wet under the camera lights. And according to the crew, they were mortified whenever they'd have to make a run to a shop to load up on what surely looked like a king's ransom of orgy supplies. As for the birthing sequence, the special effects gang actually used a step up from lube. They used, methyl cellulose, the food thickener mainstay. We would pump up methyl cellulose by the gallon, recalls Keane, who was the special effects supervisor. You can see the pump in action early in the sequence as pools of clear goop ooze up from the floorboards.
Yeah, sure.
The thick, snot-like strands coating Frank's in-progress body are also likely methyl cellulose. When Frank's arm stumps erupt from the pools of ooze, those are 2 animatronics. He says that they built lots and lots of puppet rigs. The forming flesh effect itself, where bone, muscle, and tendons reconstitute, was accomplished with wax and reverse photography. And then they constructed models of body parts out of different waxes with different melting points, layering them as needed, so they would be burned and then filmed in reverse. And then that is the effect of the reforming flesh that we see in that amazing sequence. Required a multitude of stages as well as close-up appliances to show the growth of Frank's hands and organs. The crew also used colored thread for Frank's veins, which when pulled and played in reverse looks like conscious slime, mold-like sinew. And that's pretty much all of my notes here. I want everybody to kind of remember that and then go watch that scene again, because it is something else when you
It's
see that
crazy.
that's thread and burning wax and reverse photography. It's just really lovely.
Great scene.
That is my write-up on the first Hellraiser movie.
I do interject something on what you said indirectly, that we're sitting in a small room, art convention, talk about a super rare album and 2 people.
Well done. This is also Wikipedia. As far as I know, this is all available on YouTube now. So. Vanessa, you watched the next movie.
Yeah. You know, I had memories of what this film was, and then I watched it and was like, fuck is happening right now?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So Hellbound Hellraiser II from 1988.
The vision is renewed. The power is reawakened. The fear is reborn. Because they have returned.
Time to play.
Hellbound, Hellraiser II. Brace yourself for terror you have never imagined.
And your suffering will be legendary even in hell.
And horrors you can never escape.
And you wanted to know. Now you know.
Last year, they brought hell to Earth. Now, they'll take you through hell. Hellbound, Hellraiser II. Time to play.
Budget of $3 million, grossed, they think, I don't know, I had to check a lot of internet sources and they seemed very sketchy. So let's just say 3 million, grossed crazy. I know Google's AI was like, we got you. 3 million. Grossed 12 million, directed, of course, by Tony Randall, who actually is mostly an editor. He had 31 editing credits, but 23 directing credits. This included Children of the Night, Amityville, 1992, It's About Time, Fist of the North Star, 10 episodes of Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and, of course, written by Clive Barker, who we've just talked about. So you know everything you need to know about him. And Peter Atkins, who, of course, is behind Hellraiser and Wishmaster as well, heavily involved. So starring, of course, Doug Bradley, Pinhead, 85 credits. Pinhead was his first feature film role, and then did Nightbreed. He did a lot of TV walk-on roles and tons of voice work, including Star Wars Old Republic video game. And he's also in Invincible. Ashley Lawrence, who plays Christy, has 45 credits, including Creepshow, Gentle Ben, and a lot of TV walk-on work. This is going to be familiar. Then we also have Imogen Borman, who played Tiffany, 14 roles, Dream Child, Coronation Street, Casualty, The Tripods, so she must be British. Kenneth Cranham, who plays Channard, Dr. Channard, 207 credits. You have seen him many, many times. But I sure was like, I don't know, he looks vaguely familiar. He's like kind of a heavier white dude. And that's what he be. He was in Layer Cake, Oliver, and again, lots of British TV. We also have Claire Higgins, who returns as Julia. She has 84 credits, including lots of lead TV roles. Finally, a lead. She was also in The Worst Witch, Trying, EastEnders, the soap opera, Kitty in Pride and Prejudice, the TV series, so close to my heart. And of course, we have the returning Sean Chapman as Frank. Who are we missing? Andrew Robinson. We'll come back to that later. So, the plot. We start with a big old recap of the first film, and I was like, man, they must have saved some money. Why am I watching this film again? And then as you watch the film, you will continue to get full scenes of Hellraiser. Such a joy. Mostly, though, the recap does not tell you the story. It just shows you all the cool special effects. So you are not prepared for the plot at all. We then jump into a British military officer who looks very much like Pinhead, toying with a box, opening it, and becoming a Cenobite. Then we jump into Kirsty's story. Now, we are going to start immediately after the happenings of the first Hellraiser movie, but it's going to be very weird because her boyfriend and her were sent to a mental facility for some reason, not like like an actual police station or somewhere where they're like, man, there's a lot of dead bodies. I guess we'll send you to the mental institute. But her boyfriend was released because his story checks out. But hers does not, because she sounds crazy. She doesn't help matters by being hysterical and flailing around a lot. So there's that. Dr. Channard is the lead doctor at the facility. He's very interested in opening up his patients and messing around with their insides, mostly their brains. He's also interested in Kirsty's story, and as it turns out, has been obsessed with the box for years. So it's just lucky that she turned up here. He even has copies of the box in his house. He has 3 at least. I didn't know there were this many boxes. So they all...
I kind of love that they've widened this out a little bit.
Yeah, you could just stumble on these guys, I guess. I mean, they're just everywhere. He also has lots of sketches and is clearly obsessed with this universe. His assistant, Kyle, feels sus when he hears that he wants this bloody mattress delivered directly to his home. And so he sneaks over there, wants to see what Channard's up to, and witnesses him sacrifice a mental patient to the mattress, and a skinless Julia crawls on out. He's like, that's not cool, and goes back to the Institute to bust Kirsty out. But she insists that they need to go to Channard's house because she believes her father is trapped in hell and she needs to save him. So they return to Channard's house. Immediately, Kyle dies. So don't worry about him. He's fine. Tiffany, who is a young, beautiful, by the way, mute patient and a whiz at puzzles, has also been carted over there to the house to help open the box. The Cenobites return. Channard and Julia go into hell, the labyrinth, excited to check things out. Tiffany and Kirsty follow for some reason. Yeah. And in the second part of the film, Channard gets everything he could dream of by becoming a Cenobite himself. Julia proclaims herself the Queen of Hell. Kirsty flails around a bunch, confronting her Uncle Frank for reasons. And Tiffany finds the way out. So, thoughts. So, the plot is really strange. It's extremely disjointed. It's hard to remember this film because there's so many pieces that don't really truly intersect in a way that makes sense. They're cool scenes.
Sorry?
It's a puzzle missing like 80 pieces. And you're like, there's a bunny nose somewhere in this pile. I know it. There is not. It is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but again, we'll get to that in the trivia. I don't fully understand the story with Julia, especially because she keeps leaving hell, but she likes hell. but she has to leave hell to get like people to sacrifice. But then at the end, she's like, haha, I'm going to leave again. And I'm going to get these moving guys who are out with my mattress. And why is the mattress her way of getting into the, anyways, it's fine. Everyone is losing their skin all the time. Kirsty is insufferable. She just screams and runs around confused or mad or in extreme emotions the entire time, and it's really frustrating and very hard to watch. However, she does do one cool scene where she dresses up in Julia's skin to save Tiffany, and that's really nice. Yeah. So, although, of course, if you think about it, that means the actress playing Julia was the one who played the one good scene. It's fine. Also, they have a scene in the end where they escape and there's this sort of closing wall situation, and it closes and a screaming face goes, ah! And it fades to the, it is stupid as fuck. And that is like the ending finale to this film. I'm like, I mean, they could have ended it in any other, it's all right. Also, you can die in hell. Who knew? That I am still confused by a great deal. And also Channard as like a Cenobite is kind of OP. Like he's way overpowered for just, I don't know.
For just becoming a brand
For
new
just becoming a brand new dude. He's like, haha, I can float and do everything, and I can kill other Cenobites, and I can kill all these people in the real world, and I can come back, and I don't need anything to get me between places. But he also has the easiest way to die ever, which is just if he spits and hits the ground and struggles, you can kill him. Easy, and he's dead. So it's basically Signs, this movie. So, wow. A little bit of trivia for you. Julia, Claire Higgins, was originally supposed to rise from the mattress as the Queen of Hell at the end of the movie, the theory being that she would be the series' continuing character. But once Hellraiser opened, Pinhead proved to be the most popular character among the public, so it was rewritten. Andrew Robinson refused to reprise his role as Larry Cotton, forcing hasty script rewrites. This partially accounts for the muddled story structure of the final film. So basically, it was supposed to be a lot more with him. The original script, which featured Larry Cotton as the major character, was essentially the same as the final film produced, except that Larry was in the chamber with Frank, which is she goes down to hell to find her father and never finds him, where they were attached to each other. So Frank and Larry are attached to each other like Siamese twins until Frank attacks Kirsty, at which point Larry cuts them apart and begins to fight until Julia arrives. Later, Larry escapes with Tiffany and Kirsty from hell, and it was him, not Kirsty, that kills Julia, but he promptly has a heart attack and is ushered away when they return to the hospital. This segues into a notorious deleted scene with Pinhead in OR Scrubs, where he informs Kirsty that Larry will die in an imitation of a doctor. However, Larry returns at the end, still alive, and it is him, not Tiffany, that Kirsty leaves the hospital with. I think it's a little different. Also, fun fact, the horn inside the Leviathan is actually doing Morse code for the word God. And that's what I got.
Oh,
that's interesting.
I think you're going to find some pushback here from Eric and I, who think this is probably the strongest film of the franchise.
I think it's really good. I think it's visually stunning. Like, there's so much cool shit happening. It just doesn't, like, there's just too many question marks and not enough, like, reasons for it. Like, why does Kirsty know? Like, she's screaming about the mattress from the start. Like, she doesn't know any of that. She wasn't there. She doesn't know how that works, you know? Right. So there's just a lot of like, wait, what? Like,
robots destroy her.
It's making sense, but no, I do enjoy the second one quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think I'd still lean to the first one, just conceptually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think the second one's a fairly strong film. It's really disturbing.
It's really disturbing, especially the mental patient stuff. Yeah.
I don't know if... I feel like everyone is surprised when I tell them this. The Queensryche song "Silent Lucidity" samples dialogue from Hellraiser II. Mm-hmm. When you hear that stuff in the middle of the song, that's Dr. Channard talking to his patients. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's in 2. It's been a while since I watched, I guess. But when she opens the box, mm-hmm. they don't go for her. Because it's supposed to be desires, not causes, not what hands.
Yeah. That was really cool. That was such a good moment because you're like, oh no, Tiffany, don't get sucked in with the Cenobites. You're just a mute girl. And instead they're like, she is not why we are here.
Yes.
Stop.
Which
I
we will
love that-
return to in 3.
I love that they've got it just kind of fits that there is a mute girl who is just so involved in puzzles, and then this doctor who's got this weird thing, and then Kirsty shows up, and all of it starts to work. I mean, it feels like a Clive Barker story.
Yes, that is probably. Have you read a lot of Barker? That could be why we appreciate it.
Yeah,
in a different way, because read a ridiculous
Sick
amount
burn,
of Clive
you.
Barker. Not a sick burn, just if you haven't read it, you haven't read it. Nothing wrong with that. Have you seen the covers of the original Books of Blood?
Yes.
Most people would not read them.
Yeah.
I just don't have time.
Those ridiculous.
No. I mean, it's one of those things that's on my bucket list, but
Go for the Addering Jack. He's a nice, simple,
Oh, that is
smooth
fun.
in. All right, so Hellraiser 3.
In Hellraiser 1, Clive Barker showed you his vision of a private hell. In Hellraiser 2, he took you on a journey inside the Inferno. Now, the terror returns in mankind's final confrontation with evil. And this time, it's going to be hell on Earth.
Great club. I really love it here. It's a great club.
Jesus Christ. Not quite.
Just give me the box. Ready for your close-up?
We're going to hell.
Ladies first. Relax, baby. This is better than sex.
It's so good to be back. Clive Barker presents Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth.
Released in 1992. Kind of wanted. I'm a Hellraiser nut. I have seen all of them, as most we have. I actually got these weird box sets. I own all of them. Don't know why.
what? You own all of
I
them?
do. So this one was directed by Anthony Hickox, who is best known for his works with Waxwork 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And he did do The Warlock. And the song I enjoyed greatly from this, he directed the video for Motorhead's version, a Hellraiser song.
All right.
This is writing credit Peter Atkins, who's got credits for 5 of the Hellraiser movies, 2, 3, Bloodline, and 2 shorts, actually not features. Wishmaster 1 through 4, Fists of the North Star, the live action movies. Selling you on this guy, aren't I? And Tony Randall and Clive Barker get story by credits for obvious reasons. This is, of course, Doug Bradley as Pinhead. Jump forward for trivia on this. This is the first film where he is actually referred to as Pinhead. Terry Farrell is the lead in this. You might know her from 148 episodes of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, yes.
Bonfire of the Vanities, where she played a party guest. A bunch of other stuff. Kevin Bernhardt, who 376 episodes of General Hospital and Dynasty, so you know what he looks like. Very nice. And interesting, you mentioned Christopher Young. My first note when this movie starts out, man, that Christopher Young movie music is still awesome.
Yeah.
They have put, and I'm glad I was right. that I'm watching the beginning of this movie. I do not remember Hellraiser 2 with him being entered into a giant piece of art.
No.
No.
So I'm like, why is he in a giant piece of art spinning in this gallery? It is kind of cool looking. I mean, it's an interesting art piece.
Oh, he does. Well, it does.
Does it kind of
Actually,
like it's
yeah.
like this column that
It's
spins around?
it's really weird. It's when the mattress guys come by to like pick it up. Like they get eaten by the one of them gets eaten by
right.
the mattress,
Yes,
and then
yes.
the pillar comes out and spins, and you see a really bad looking
It looks better
face
in
and
3 then.
yeah,
Okay,
no, yeah.
But Terry plays a small-time reporter, and she's looking for a story because she doesn't want to, cover the fluff pieces anymore. She's in the morgue and disappointed because there's no good stories, and suddenly a man gets pushed down there with chains cut into his hand, stretching down the hallway. So it's like, oh, this seems like it might be a story. He gets torn asunder very quickly. Honestly, not the greatest effect. It lacked blood for a Hellraiser moment like that compared to what's been done in the last 2 films. So she starts to investigate to find out what's going on. There's a young woman that comes in with her and says, I have nothing to do with this guy. I don't know him. I was just at the boiler room with him. So she goes, oh, boiler room, what's that? It's a weird, crazy-ass nightclub. One half, metal bands. I think it's Armored Saint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then the other half, like a see-through wall away, is a 5-star looking restaurant with classical music playing. Like, that is some badass soundproofing that installed in that wall. So it's kind of weird. And the guy who bought the art piece is a fuckboy frat from word go. And really just a nasty little character. He was even less redeeming than I remembered him. For some reason, I really don't know why, the younger lady did decide she needs to talk to the reporter. Maybe because she showed up at the boiler room and thought, oh, that's cool. Okay. I don't know. And holy shit. If you get paid to cover, I don't know, weddings and bar mitzvahs, and you can afford this apartment, screw that, man. Do the late. It's like 2 floors, gourmet kitchen, spiral staircase, lovely view. I'm like, friends ain't got nothing on this shit, man. And that is. The music in the club as it comes back and forth is a fun mash of like early 90s music. Not quite consistent enough for a club, but that's okay. Pinhead doesn't come in for a while, but I know it would have been cheesy. I know it would have been ridiculous, but I still would have loved him come back and say, we have such sights to show you. I just would have loved that. But he apparently in the spinning thing, when Doug finally has to speak, was horrible. He said it's one of the worst things he's ever had to do on screen was get into that makeup and speak for whatever reason. It looks fine. It didn't look like it was that bad, but apparently it was just not good. First half of this film, I'm going, why did I have a problem with this movie? This is fairly decent. It's not great. And then, well, there's the very entertaining scene of Hellraiser showing up at the boiler room. And it is a combination of gore and laugh out loud, funny, weird shit going on. So I don't quite know what he was going for as a director. Because, I mean, there's goofy shit. Like the guy who's got 2 pool balls stuck in his mouth and really violent tearing some people apart. So it's a weird scene that is a lot of fun to watch. They do something that really bugs me. One of my favorite aspects of the first 2 Hellraiser movies is that these Cenobites are not killers. They're not Ed Geins. They're not Jasons. They are a very specific breed of demon from hell that has to be summoned and has to have a reason. This movie, they decide, oh, Pinhead's broken away from hell and now he's a free agent and can do whatever the hell he wants to. And I'd forgotten that happened in this movie, and I was like really disappointed to hear that, because that's always been my biggest problem, that they got away from it. But I guess at least they explained it at some point. But it really, really hurts the lure of the Cenobites and Pinhead to turn him from somebody that has a weird but present moral code to just another crazy badass serial killer. So I was like, okay, all right, whatever. The ending is strange. For some reason, he creates a buttload of new Cenobites, partially because they're free from hell too. You can do whatever they want to, except they just do whatever he wants them to do. And what works so well in the first Hellraiser with those Cenobites is they're weird, they're unrecognizable, sort of. They're not human things, they're strange creations. Well, this one's got a cameraman who's now got a camera in his head whose zoom lens kills people, a DJ who shoots CDs to kill people. So by the end, I remembered, oh, this is why I don't like Hellraiser 3.
Yeah.
But the first 45 minutes, hour or so of the movie is actually fairly good. It's not great, but it's a lot stronger than I remembered. And it definitely has the 80s and 90s trope of, hey, we're going to have to end the movie in a construction site. Which doesn't sound that tropey until you really start to think about it. You go, hold on, the Lethal Weapon movies, damn near every action buddy cop movie. But, and it's fine. The ending is very forgettable. And it's just, yeah. And it's got pointless turns where the young lady that stays with her hears a message on the phone, just flips out, or you lied to me, and runs away. And just like, your relationship is so good by now, you should have maybe said, you're moving? Is this true? Which wasn't true, of course. Anyways, Randall was attached to direct, but the producer removed him for the way wrong reason, that they were worried he was going to make it too bleak. It's like, no, it's a Hellraiser movie.
Please.
This is one of the few movies that should just be bleak. The scene with, that's mentioned with Hellraiser and him not liking it. Pinhead found, or Doug Bradley found watching this, that they had to use a stunt double to play him at one point. And he became jealously protective of Pinhead. Nice. And he's like, I don't like somebody else playing him. He has volunteered now to come back to meet the new Pinhead lady that was in the last movie and work with her. I'm going, sure, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. But the one time Doug did not play Hellraiser was not good. Let's see. Peter Jackson was asked to direct this film. And his reason for declining is perfect. He's like, I don't make these kind of films. I'd be immediately starting to think of funny gags and weird stuff I could do, with Pinhead getting his head stuck in a wall or random weird shit like that. So he passed on it, but just out of curiosity factor, that would have been wild, especially considering the kind of movies he was making then.
Yeah.
Were bad taste and just. Anyways, probably would have ended with a giant creature falling apart and creatures falling.
Dead alive,
and bad taste for us to end that same way. Although Clive Barker was technically an executive producer on the film, he was largely uninvolved because he recently had the problems with
Nightbreed.
Where they really messed with the editing. He was not interested in working with the studio at the time. However, the movie grossed almost $13 million.
Wow.
So it was a pretty big success on a $2 to $3 million budget. So I don't know why they didn't decide to keep going with mid-budget levels and decide just push it off a cliff and give the next guy like $5 to direct it.
Right.
Because from 3, the drop-off in quality of films is strong. I mean, there's a couple that are fun, but
You know, the construction of the Cenobites in this. I think what makes them so cool in the first two movies is they're timeless. Even Dr.
Yes.
Chenard
Yeah.
doesn't have anything that ties him to his present.
You say CD guy is kind of hard.
Well, that's just it. You know, and that kind of stuff then is like you've now immediately dated this film.
Yeah.
You've got a DJ spinning CDs, literally.
Right.
So you know that's like no.
Yeah, that's a bummer. What do you guys think of the next few movies? I've got a list here.
There's one that's sort
Inferno.
of a game.
Oh well, actually, Bloodline is the next one, which is I think you talked about, or one of you guys talked about in an actual episode, and that's the one that goes through time.
Yes, I did.
And ends in the spaceship and all that.
Oh,
that one's
amazing.
Almost good.
It's almost good.
That one's
Actually almost same with like I feel like 3 is good if you don't think about 1 and 2 at all. Like it's at least funny. It's at least really funny.
Yeah, because it does. I mean, the scene in the club is solidly entertaining.
It's so entertaining, and like the Cenobites are genuinely pretty hilarious. But
that one's directed by Kevin Yeager.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of of quality there. The next one is Inferno. That's directed by Scott Derrickson, who has done The Exorcism of Emily Rose, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Doctor Strange.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So you're like, God, what? Everyone's got to start somewhere, I guess.
Yep.
Well done.
The list continues after Bloodline, Inferno, Hellseeker, Deader, Hellworld, Revelations, Judgment, and then this latest one on Hulu, which was just called Hellraiser again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a reboot, and I was fine with it.
Yeah, it mostly worked for me. I thought it was an interesting way to approach it.
I love that they tried.
Yeah,
that was all I really wanted. I was like, oh, God,
as opposed to like
cared.
One of the Hellraiser's one of the films that random scripts would come in and they go, hey, put pen in it and call it Hellraiser. We'll make your movie.
Right.
So that's why so many of them are so weirdly, completely unconnected, because they're completely unconnected.
Right. Well, but I also want to kind of point out that this last Hellraiser, which was a Hulu original, that was 3 years ago already. And I kind of thought with the buzz that had happened around that we might have gotten something else. And in fact, there was supposed to be a Clive Barker produced Hellraiser sequel coming up. That has gone away. His books,
was there not
Blood,
a TV series or something? Clive Barker TV
I can't
series?
find any information on anything that's actually in production anymore.
Oh, okay.
So
Anymore, I think after what's happened with Chucky, they're probably all going to, well, maybe there'll be a Hellraiser movie. Hey, maybe there'll be a Jason TV series. Maybe there'll be.
Right.
That did so well.
Yeah, for sure. But he, you can always get in more recent times by playing Dead by Daylight because he comes as an enemy.
Oh, nice.
In the add-on pack.
I know there was a time, I think, down at the Lovecraft Film Festival when we were talking to Doug Bradley, and he had said that he and Clive had imagined some kind of sequel where Pinhead was now an old, fat ruler of hell, a demon that ruled hell, and that they would continue on with him kind of as an overseer. And I thought that sounded amazing.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
But that's off the table now, too. So it seems that there's nothing going on with the franchise.
Coming soon, King Conan.
We've got a couple of minutes here. Let's open it up to the floor if anyone wants to discuss anything or not. Oh, yes.
Have any of you read the sequel Scarlet Gospel?
So the question is, has anybody read the sequel Scarlet Gospels? I read that, which was a nice continuation of the Pinhead character, never called Pinhead.
Right.
I can't remember what he was called.
Hell Priest.
The Hell Priest.
I touched on when you were saying about how he's supposed to be the Pope of Hell.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, the Hell Priest.
Yeah, and I thought that was actually really good, but a little slow.
Yeah.
You, Eric?
I don't think I did.
It's interesting.
It's all right, yeah.
Vanessa doesn't read. So.
I read a lot of comics. I read so many comics.
The
It's unreal.
Hellraiser comic book series had some
That had some interesting
pretty damn good stuff in it.
Yeah.
Story's okay. Art was always pretty cool.
Have any of you seen the trailer that came out for Undone Hellraiser? Early 2010s. There was a conversation about doing a Hellraiser movie in hell. With Pinhead and other Cenobites, conquering hell and becoming the.
Oh, yeah.
I know the trailer came out. It was like a teaser trailer that came out. They conceptualized it. It looked amazing.
Wow, was this just a fan thing, or was this somebody?
At least to my knowledge, this was a real teaser trailer they put out to try to get interest about it in the early teens.
Oh man, well I will have to look that up. That sounds very cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat fan films. Hard to say because some are made very professionally, but there's some interesting Hellraiser shorts that are out there. You can find most of them on YouTube and stuff. But so if you're really into it, it's worth checking those out because a lot of them are neater ideas than the later movies.
Well, and jumping on one of the things you said, in the 90s, Marvel Comics had their Epic line, and they had a Hellraiser series. And very rarely did any of the Cenobites from the movie show up. It was all new Cenobites, and it was really interesting. And I think that was probably the way the films should have gone.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. But we can sell Pinhead.
Yeah,
we can't sell.
That's true.
Random.
I mean,
whatever.
if you're going to rewrite starting from the second one to make sure that you feature Pinhead, then
that'd be cool.
But I think Julia as like a bad guy as the queen of hell would have been pretty interesting too, because she was a really compelling character.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And arguably the best actor in the bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, in a series of the first two movies of pretty decent actors.
Yeah.
She really shone.
Yeah, for sure. She was very, like, not only was she watchable, but she sold some really incredibly difficult concepts.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. There's a tonal change. I forgot to mention that Hellraiser 3 was the first one shot in the U.S.
Oh.
So that's kind of why it's got a tone change.
That's why it's so
goofier.
it's just a Surge commercial. It's all adding up now.
That sounds like a great time to wrap this up. That line
It actually is time to wrap this up. Any last comments by anybody here? Then I will make the last comment, or the last couple of comments, which is to say that our show comes out every week, every Thursday. It's called Strange Eons Radio. We really appreciate everybody who's out there listening, who's donating, who's calling in, saying really lovely things. Yeah. And this one will be showing up live shortly. So
fingers crossed.
If you want your, as long as this stuff works, if you want your voice heard, you got to yell something now. Nothing. Wow. Well then, thanks everybody for showing up. I hope everybody has a great con, and thank you so much for showing up.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Eons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Eons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, you know what we mean. Strange Eons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
That's why it's so it's just a Surge commercial.